Hey, all my sweet viewers. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more spine-tingling horror stories. You won't want to miss the next scare. I'm Brend, and this is the story of my mother's possession. We lived in a small, isolated town where farms stretched as far as the eye could see, and dense forests circled our community like an ancient guardian. My father was a farmer, hard-working and grounded in the soil, and my mother, well, she used to be the warmth in our home. That all changed the year something dark crept into our lives. It began one late autumn evening when the chill in the air felt heavier, almost suffocating. My mother had been unwell for weeks. At first, we thought it was just exhaustion from tending to the farm and the house. But then she started to change. At night, she would wake up in the middle of her sleep, staring into the blackness of the room, mumbling things in a language none of us understood. My father took her to the local doctor, thinking it was some kind of mental issue. But no medicine could touch whatever had its claws in her. As the days went on, her behavior grew more erratic. She would sit in the kitchen, eyes wide, muttering to herself. Sometimes I could hear her whispering names I had never heard before: Azazel, Belial, Mammon, and Asmodeus. These weren't just names, they were entities, and soon we realized these were no mere delusions. One evening she looked at me, but it wasn't her. Her eyes had lost the familiar warmth. Instead, they glowed with something cold and malevolent. Her voice was low and inhuman when she spoke. "He is coming, Brend. He is already here." The nights became unbearable. My father stayed up praying, calling for help, but nothing worked. The forest around us seemed to close in tighter, its shadows growing longer and more twisted. It was as if the trees themselves were watching us, waiting for something. Then one night, we woke to the sound of a low growl coming from my mother's room. When we rushed in, we found her hovering above her bed, her limbs contorted in impossible angles, eyes completely black. The 4 names she had been whispering, they were there, around her, shadowy figures just beyond the reach of the candlelight. And standing at the foot of her bed was something far worse: Lucifer. Himself, cloaked in darkness, his presence heavy and suffocating. "We are many, my mother, no." The thing that was inside her spoke with a voice that was not her own. "She belongs to us now." My father screamed, rushing toward her, but he was thrown back by an unseen force. The walls began to bleed, the air filled with sulfur, and the shadows of those 4 entities danced in the corners of the room, laughing at our helplessness. For weeks, we fought to bring her back. Priests came and went, their prayers doing nothing but agitating the evil inside her. We were alone, trapped in that farmhouse with a demon that wore my mother's face. My father stopped going to the doctor. He knew, as I did, that this was far beyond any human illness. This was Lucifer's grip, and the 4 entities were merely his foot soldiers. I still remember the last time I saw my mother before the possession fully consumed her. She looked at me, her eyes softening for just a moment. "Brend, I'm so sorry." And then she was gone, swallowed by the darkness. We moved away from that house, leaving it to rot in the shadow of the forest. But even now, sometimes I can still hear her voice in the wind, calling my name, trapped between our world and the hell that claimed her.